On July 13, 2011, the 138th annual encampment will occur at the Bohemian Grove in Monterey, California. For 2 weeks in mid-July, the Bohemian Grove plays host to some of the most powerful men in the world. During this time, the men are entertained by a number of plays and bizarre ritualistic ceremonies, the most notable being the cremation of care. Former German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, a frequent attendee of Bohemian Grove, once detailed the secret establishments that run the world. These include the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group and Bohemian Grove. He also described the Bohemian Grove as a great hideaway and a wonderful place to spend time with the Rockefellers, a place to discuss world government and steering society. Members of Bohemian Grove have included William Howard Taft, the United States President; Herbert Hoover, the United States President; Dwight D. Eisenhower, later became President; Ronald Reagan, later became President; Richard Nixon, later became President; George Herbert Walker Bush, later became President; Bill Clinton, later became President; George Walker Bush, later became President. The global banking cartel's central planning force, the Federal Reserve, is run by members of Bohemian Grove. Alan Greenspan was at Bohemian Grove 1 month before he was appointed as the Federal Reserve Chairman. Important political and business deals are discussed and established at the Bohemian Grove, which is a direct violation of law in most concerned countries. The Bohemian Grove was the birthplace of the Manhattan Project, which resulted in the development of the first atomic bomb. The ideas, concepts and plans that are devised at Bohemian Grove result in crimes against humanity. These secret meetings must no longer be tolerated. These secret meetings must become transparent. We must no longer allow our government officials to meet with CEOs of large companies, military contractors, oil companies and too-big-to-fail banks without the direct consent of the people, without transparency. We must unite and restore the law as it was meant to be and hold the criminals accountable for their actions. At this time we are launching Operation Bohemian Grove. Operation Bohemian Grove. This operation will commence on the dawn of July 13th. The first step requires the occupation of Bohemian Avenue and Railroad Avenue, specifically in the intersection of Bohemian Avenue and Railroad Avenue. Occupy this intersection and the respective roadways completely. Block entrance to Bohemian Grove until the presence of the police state requires you to move. But do this in a peaceful, non-combative way. Wear your face of anonymity. Let them see us as one. Let them see the face of the anonymous. The second step only applies to the anonymous who walk within Bohemian Grove. During the cremation of care ceremony, wear your face of anonymity. Let them see us as one. Let them see the face of the anonymous. Operation Bohemian Grove. Engaged. We are watching. Expect us.
Bohemians and priests, the desperate call of heavy hearts is answered by the power of your fellowship. Dull care is slain. His body has been brought yonder from the funeral pyre to the joyous wipings of a funeral march. Our funeral pyre awaits the corpse of care.
Yeah. A fraud? No, it wasn't a fraud, but I'll be glad to talk to you if you'll shut up and let me talk. Now. A fraud Let me tell you something. I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud. The Bohemian Club. Did you say the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
Now a question. What have Herbert Hoover, Art Linkletter, Jack London, and Richard Nixon all had in common? Well, they've all been members of the exclusive all-male Bohemian Club in California, where every year at this time, the elite from around the country get together for 2.5 weeks of fun and games. Steve Shepard has this special assignment report.
More than 2,000 members of San Francisco's exclusive and all-male Bohemian Club have once again descended on Northern California. These men will spend most of the month of July encamped on some 2,700 acres of pristine and privately owned redwood forest. Forest very much like this. The place is called Bohemian Grove, and it's located just 80 miles north of San Francisco. The Grove is the Bohemian Club's summer retreat, and its facilities are hidden beneath lush forest canopy extending south from the banks of Sonoma County's Russian River. For more than a century, the camp has been a place where club members and guests from all across America gather to relax. The retreat is divided into dozens of small camps, the most prominent of which is called Mandalay. Among its members are businessmen like Leonard Firestone and Edgar Kaiser, and political figures like Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz. President Reagan, Vice President Bush, and Defense Secretary Weinberger are members of other camps. Richard Nixon is a Bohemian, and so are high-ranking executives of such companies as Eastern Airlines, Standard Oil of Indiana, and Bank of America. For the most part, the men of Bohemian Grove are over 50, highly successful, and, according to many employees, politically conservative.
Well, each year, many of them seem to have a stunt or try to come up with a stunt. Last year, 1980, the popular button was Free the Fortune 500.
Membership in the Grove is by invitation only and is determined by such factors as social standing, occupation, and personal connections. Privacy is one of the Grove's most cherished virtues. Members may not photograph, record, speak, or write about activities at the retreat. While many public officials are Grove members, the press is a distinctly unwelcome guest.
We're from ABC News.
Well, get back there.
Can we talk to somebody in the...
Get back there.
Anyone willing to navigate a boat up the Russian River can get a glimpse of the northern edge of the compound, but that's about all. Still, there are outsiders who have researched the Grove. Sociology professor William Dumhoff found out enough to write a book on the place.
Well, I think it's a playground for the powerful. It's a place where wealthy men from all of the United States gather for 2 weeks to relive summer camp with this ceremony called the cremation of care that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell and hand each other a beer. And
other regular activities include the production of 2 plays, one of which involves major sets, orchestral music, and extravagant costumes. The other play appears to be just a bit on the lighter side, at least judging from these old photos. Members also spend time swimming, hiking, relaxing in the sun, and doing a bit of drinking from the Grove's own privately labeled spirits. Like a boys' camp, the Grove has a symbol, in this case a somewhat fierce-looking owl. It also has a patron saint, St. John of Nepomuk, a legitimate 13th century Bohemian canonized for his sense of honor. What the Grove does not have is any women, not even as employees. Despite its camp-like atmosphere, the Grove does host some serious business.
to the degree that there's anything important happens at the Bohemian Grove, it's political. The important speeches that have been made at the Bohemian Grove have been made, for instance, and the best example, by Richard Nixon. Eisenhower gave a speech there. It was the first time the West Coast establishment really saw him close up.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb. It was at the Grove in 1967 that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan hashed out differences over their presidential ambitions. Each year, guests like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski addressed members on their areas of expertise. Presidential counselor Edwin Meese will be among this year's speakers. And each year, other guests come to the Grove simply to enjoy themselves. This year, CIA Director William Casey is a scheduled guest of John McCone, former CIA Director. Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn has been invited as a guest of baseball owner Peter O'Malley. Despite the presence of so many notables, the Grove is not without its small headaches. Anti-nuclear demonstrators gathered near the entrance to the retreat this year to wave signs and chant slogans. The Grove is also facing a suit from the state of California because it refuses to hire women. Still, the Bohemian Grove seems in no danger of passing. Herbert Hoover called it the world's greatest men's party, and there is a list of powerful people waiting to get in on it.